Make-A-Wish recipients and workers. What were some wishes you had to say no to? When I was 14, I got diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder that basically turned my body into its own worst enemy. Hospital stays were routine. I missed entire semesters of school. My hair fell out. I lived with a constant dull ache in my joints and a bone-deep fatigue that didn't care if I slept 10 hours or 20. At some point during all that, my doctor mentioned I might qualify for a Make-A-Wish. My mom looked more shocked than I did. We didn't think I was sick enough, but a few months later, a pair of volunteers showed up at our door. They brought me a little care package, asked questions about my hobbies, what I liked, what made me happy. Then they asked me the big one. If you could wish for anything, what would it be? I said I wanted to go to the Oscars. At the time, that felt like the most glamorous, unattainable thing I could think of. I used to watch red carpets from my hospital bed, eyes glued to every dress, every awkward interview. I imagined myself in one of those gowns, smiling like nothing hurt, surrounded by flashbulbs and famous people. It felt like the exact opposite of what my life had become. But about 2 weeks after we submitted the paperwork, my coordinator called and gently let me know the Oscars were off the table. The Academy has a strict no-wish policy. It's not personal. They just don't allow it. I was crushed, not angry, just disappointed in a way I hadn't really let myself feel since I first got sick. That had been my bright spot, my light at the end of the tunnel. The coordinator paused, then said, "But how would you feel about the People's Choice Awards instead?" I said yes immediately, even though I wasn't sure what it would be like. It turned out to be one of the best weeks of my life. Make-A-Wish flew my whole family to Los Angeles. They paid for everything, flights, hotel, food. They even had someone meet us at the airport with a sign and a smile like we were actual VIPs. I got to pick out a dress. They booked me a professional hair and makeup appointment the day of the show. A limo picked us up from the hotel and took us to the venue. We walked the red carpet. I had no idea where to look, where to stand, what to do with my hands. But for once I didn't care if people saw the scars on my arms or the wig on my head. I felt normal. No, better. I felt special. Our seats were just a few rows from the stage. I remember seeing Sandra Bullock walk past, and I whispered to my sister, "That's actually her." We clapped and screamed and took blurry photos on our phones, and for 2 hours, I wasn't the sick girl. I was just another teenager living something ridiculous and amazing. It mattered a lot to me that my brother and sister were included in the trip. My illness hadn't just taken from me. It had taken from them, too. Canceled family vacations, missed birthdays, waking up to find me gone because I'd been rushed to the ER again. The trip gave us a week to just be together. No IV pulls or blood draws. No whispered conversations in hospital hallways. Just us, in a sunny place, laughing. That wish stuck with me. When I turned 18 and aged out of the program, I applied to be a volunteer. Not just to say thank you, but because I'd been on the other side. I knew what it felt like to need something to look forward to. I became a wish coordinator. I'd show up at kids' houses with a small gift bag, one for the wish kid, one for each sibling. We'd sit down and talk. A lot of times parents would try to answer for the kid. I learned quickly to ask for a few quiet minutes alone, just me and the child, so I could really listen. Because sometimes a kid says, "I want to go to Disney," but what they mean is, "I want to feel joy again." The hardest part was explaining the limits. Celebrity wishes were always tricky. Sometimes it worked. Some stars are incredibly generous with their time, but others, we had to say no. Either they didn't grant wishes at all, or their team would only allow meet and greets, where the kid stood in a group of 20 others for a wave and a quick photo. That wasn't a wish. That was a line at Comic-Con, saying no hurt every time, even when I understood why. One of my favorite wishes was this teenage boy who couldn't leave his room due to a chronic condition. His wish? A tricked-out gaming setup. We gave him $7 grand to spend. He picked out a giant TV, a top-tier console, surround sound, a lazy boy with built-in cup holders, and an endless stack of games. I remember his smile when we rolled everything in. He said it was the first time he felt like his room belonged to him, not to his illness. People think Make-A-Wish is about dying wishes. It's not. It's about moments. Moments that remind these kids and their families that there's still joy to be found, even in the middle of something terrifying. Mine was a red carpet. His was a gaming chair. But we both got to feel like the main character for a little while. That's the real magic.